Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Day of dramatic developments in West Asia as Lebanese drones hit Netanyahu's home, while Iran all ready for any scenario. Diplomatic efforts continue to ease crisis. Ahead of BRICS summit, President Putin expresses Russia's desire for lasting peace in Ukraine, praises PM Modi for his efforts towards paving solution to the conflict. Launching Karma Yogi Saptah, National Learning Week, India's PM Narendra Modi stresses on innovative thinking with citizen-centric approach. And on day 4 of India versus New Zealand first test, Rishabh Pant misses his century by 1 run while Sarfaraz Khan scores his maiden century. As Israel wages a two-front war, a drone targeted the residence of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the city of Caesarea in central Israel. Netanyahu was not in house at that time and no casualties were reported. On the other hand, Iran has said that it is ready for any scenario. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts have intensified to ease the crisis in West Asia after the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. DD India correspondent Raghav Kumar Jha has filed a detailed report.
Sirens were heard in northern Israel early on Saturday as cross-border hostilities with the Hezbollah continued. Israeli army said in a statement that 55 rockets were launched from Lebanon since the morning towards Haifa and other northern Israeli cities. Some were intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system and others fell in open areas. A drone was launched towards Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home in the northern Israeli town of Caesarea. Netanyahu's spokesman said that the PM was not in the vicinity and there were no casualties. 2 more drones that crossed into Israeli territory were intercepted. Israel intensified its operation in North Gaza's Jabalia camp. The Israeli military said that it was targeting Hamas infrastructure in the area to stop it from regrouping. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said on Saturday that the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar will not halt the axis of resistance and that Hamas would live on. Iranian foreign minister said, though Iran wants reduction in tension, but it is ready for any scenario.
We want the reduction in tensions. Of course, as we have repeatedly announced, we have the necessary preparedness for any scenario and every situation.
Meanwhile, after the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, diplomatic efforts have intensified to ease the crisis. US President Joe Biden, who was on a 24-hour flying visit to Berlin, met Germany's Chancellor Scholz, French President Macron and British Prime Minister Starmer. The leaders explored the possibility of a diplomatic solution to the conflict.
We think that there's a possibility of working for a ceasefire in Lebanon, and it's going to be harder in Gaza, but we agree that there has to be an outcome. What happens the day after?
What is needed now is a ceasefire in Gaza, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, immediate access for humanitarian aid, and a return to the path towards the two-state solution.
On the other hand, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz arrived in Istanbul on Saturday for a meeting with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and to discuss West Asia crisis and migration. Raghav Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit Russia for the 16th BRICS summit taking place in Kazan. The summit, themed Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security, will serve as a crucial platform for leaders to address key global challenges. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi is also expected to engage in bilateral meetings with his counterparts from BRICS member countries and invited leaders. More in the next report.
BRICS, an important grouping, brings together the major emerging economies from the world. This year, the 16th BRICS summit is being held in Kazan, Russia. BRICS countries have been the main engines of global economic growth over the years. On Friday, Russian President Vladimir Putin highlighted similar points.
This year, the average rate of BRICS economic growth is projected at 4%. This is greater than both G7's growth rate, which is only 1.7%, and global growth rate, which is 3.2%. This is a forecast.
President Putin echoed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's stance on BRICS, that the grouping is not anti-Western, but rather non-Western.
BRICS never was meant to against anyone. The Indian Prime Minister put it aptly of late. He has said that BRICS is not an anti-Western group, it's just a non-Western group. The BRICS does not counterpose itself to anyone. It is a group of nations that work in concert and have shared values and shared goals of development and take each other's interests.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Russia from 22nd to 23rd October 2024 to attend this summit. This year's theme for the summit is Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security. Leaders are expected to discuss key global issues. Ahead of the summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his efforts towards paving a solution to the Ukraine war.
Our mediation is wanted. We will gladly work with the colleagues. Same refers to our friends. In particular, I mean the Prime Minister Modi. While talking with His Excellency over the phone, each time he raises this matter and expresses his considerations, and we are grateful to him for that.
The association now includes 10 countries: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates joined BRICS as new full members. BRICS Plus, as the organization has been informally called since its expansion, now accounts for 37.3% of world GDP. Siddharth Bharadwaj's report for DD India.
Defense ministers from the world's 7 leading economies gathered in Italy's Naples on Saturday amid escalating tensions in West Asia and mounting conflict between Russia and Ukraine. On the occasion of the first ever ministerial meeting focused on defense, Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto called it an extraordinary moment and emphasized that Russia-Ukraine conflict and the critical situation in West Asia highlight a deteriorated security framework.
Today marks an extraordinary moment as we are about to commence for the first time the G7 defense meeting. For nearly 50 years, the Group of 7 have gathered to address geopolitical, social and economic challenges of global importance. But until today, the opportunity to meet in this format and the need to discuss in depth on defense and security matters have never been taken into consideration.
The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, said that achieving a ceasefire in the Middle East is a priority and suggested that the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar by Israeli forces could create new opportunities for reaching a ceasefire, releasing hostages and pursuing a political solution.
In the Middle East, Lebanon is at that moment the most important and pressing issue. Certainly, after the killing of Yahya Sinwar, a new perspective is open, and we have to use it in order to reach a ceasefire, to release the remaining hostages, and to look for a political perspective.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. We tell you about the migrant crisis faced by the United States as the country is all set to elect its new president. North Korea says it found the remains of a South Korean drone. We tell you more about Japan's mass mascot gathering.
With the constantly changing geopolitical situation and growing challenges in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, India is focusing on self-reliance and modernization.
We signed the contract for 31 Predator drones MQ-9B, out of which 16 will be for the land use and 15 for the sea use, and that is largely for the Navy. This capability certainly is a force multiplier in our effort to monitor our areas of interest. P-75 class of submarines, the last of which is likely to be delivered by end of the year. Then subsequent projects, that is P-75 India and P-76 are moving.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj, and with just short of 3 weeks left for the November 5th presidential election in United States, both candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, are going out, all out in fact, to woo voters of black women, black voters, Latino Americans, Arab Americans, Indian Americans, among others. DD India's Amritpal Singh spoke to a cross-section of Indian Americans to know their mood and explore what role they could play in November. Let's listen in.
When Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the US Congress in June last year, he made a point of referring to Vice President Kamala Harris and her Indian heritage.
There are millions here who have roots in India. Some of them sit proudly in this chamber. And there is one behind me who has made history.
He had said this, pointing to Harris, whose mother was born in India. Harris's heritage is a sign of the role the Indian community has come to play in American politics.
As we become successful, I think most people are beginning to recognize that we have so much to contribute. For a long time, being involved in the community, charity, and philanthropy was par for the course. But in the last decade, I've seen a significant level of engagement in politics.
Currently, there are about 5 Indian Americans in the US Congress and nearly 40 in state legislatures. Indian American voters themselves have the highest voting rates of any Asian American group. But the Indian Americans don't vote en bloc to a particular party. Like any other group, they have their own preferences.
Indian Americans have been organizing and mobilizing and helping get out the vote. Last weekend I was in Philadelphia. We were knocking doors and reaching out to everybody, and they have been big donors. A lot of huge enthusiasm has come out in support of Kamala Harris, her mom being from India.
In the current election, there used to be like mostly Democrats, Indians 70-80%, because we are naturally more socially liberal. Both Republicans and Democrats have started wooing our community also.
Indian Americans are now a growing political force.
Now we are finally, at least in pockets, becoming a community that can influence the outcomes. There are many cases where they are feeling threatened either by legislation that's coming in place or by some elements who are threatening their places of worship, their places of education, or even their homes. And they're realizing that unless they have a voice in policy making, it's very easy for someone to get victimized.
It's remarkable how the Indian American community has grown in terms of its political engagement and civic leadership. Though still small in numbers, this well-educated and relatively wealthy community is fast becoming a growing political force in American politics. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh in Stanford, California.
In India, Shubhendu Ghosh tells us about the migrant crisis faced by the United States as the country is all set to elect its new president.
At the turn of the 20th century, some 14 million immigrants entered the United States through New York. Statue of Liberty was the reassuring sign that these people had reached the land of their dreams. For the anxious soul, this was the mother of exiles, a powerful symbol of hope. But this is 2024. America, the land of immigrants, is facing a problem that many call a migrant crisis. The United States has more international migrants than any other country in the world, with immigrants making up nearly 14% of the population in 2022. An estimate of undocumented population puts the number at 11 million people. New York alone accounts for some 200,000 migrants. Mexico has been the top country of origin for US immigrants.
Like many global cities that are the economic epicenter of a nation, we attract people that are looking for opportunity. And we've seen an influx of that in a volume and at a pace and in a short duration that is a historical high.
For decades, the US Congress has been unable to reach a consensus on how to handle immigration challenges, often leaving critical policy decisions to the courts and the executive branch. Earlier this year, during his visit to the US-Mexico border in Arizona, Republican presidential nominee and former US President Donald Trump criticized his opponent Kamala Harris as a lazy border czar, while praising the wall that was built during his administration but was never completely finished. Kamala Harris has defended her vice presidential record on immigration and blamed her Republican rival Donald Trump for killing a bipartisan bill aimed to address the crisis. Harris assured she would renew a push for comprehensive border legislation if elected to power. Many locate the problem not with the migrants, but the system that alienates them.
The migrant crisis is a misnomer. We don't have a crisis of migrants, we have a crisis of systems to integrate the new people who are coming in here. Most are coming legally as asylum seekers, that has always been a benefit to this country. Others are coming seeking work and opportunity. This country was built on that.
While voters in the US decide who will occupy the most powerful office in the world, the fate of the most vulnerable section of the population hangs in balance. With camera person Jaishankar Singaravelu, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
And DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us from San Francisco. Amrit, just 3 weeks remain until the US polls, and both candidates are going all out to win over voters, especially in the battleground states. Amrit, make sense of the strategies of both candidates as the end game begins?
Close. It is neck and neck in most states, especially the battleground states. The latest polls give Donald Trump a slight edge over Kamala Harris, but if you factor in the the margin of error, then this could completely go awry, and it could go either way. So it is both candidates. That's why are campaigning hard in the battleground states. They were in Michigan. Both candidates were in Michigan on Friday and trying to campaign for themselves. And of course, trading personal charges. Kamala Harris raising the question of physical fitness of Donald Trump. She's bound to do that because that's what Trump did to Biden, 81-year-old Biden. Now Trump himself is 78, Kamala turned 60, so she has the age advantage. So she rigged up the issue of him skipping some interviews after there were newspaper reports that he had to skip interviews because he was tired and exhausted. Trump retorted back saying that no, I'm not exhausted at all. I haven't taken rest for 48 days now, and I am exhilarated. So clearly, the close contest is the reason why they're trying to campaign hard in these states. Michigan, for example, has 15 votes of the Electoral College, so it could prove significant. That's why we saw the kind of campaigning and wooing the voters. He trying to reach out to the Arab Americans who form a considerable population in Michigan, saying that peace in West Asia or Middle East needs to be brought in fast, accusing the Biden administration of messing it up there. So clearly reaching out to the Arab American voters. In fact, the mayor of Detroit, who's a Muslim mayor, praised Donald Trump for his policies. And so both candidates are doing that, yes.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Amrit, for your analysis. And following South Korea's accusation that North Korea had sent 1,500 Special Forces troops to Russia for training related to the Ukraine war, North Korea said it found the remains of a South Korean drone. State media KCNA reported the drone resembled one used for leaflet distribution over Pyongyang and was showcased by South Korea during an October 1st military drill. Meanwhile, Ukraine's foreign minister warned that North Korean troop involvement in Russia could pose a huge escalation risk.
This is a huge risk of further escalation of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. It's a huge risk as it further intensifies and lets the war outgrow its current limits and territorial borders.
Following a 12-year pause, Japan's nuclear power program is being revitalized with the restart of massive Kashiwazaki Kariwa facility. Located on the coast of Sea of Japan, the world's biggest nuclear plant has undergone major safety upgrades after the 2011 Fukushima disaster. The 1,000-acre nuclear plant boasts of multiple safety enhancements, including a 50-foot tsunami wall. Japan's renewed focus on nuclear power is driven by emission reduction goals and advancements in AI technology. What is the present state of India-Saudi Arabia relationship and what does the future hold in terms of possibilities? DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya spoke exclusively in Riyadh to Dr. Sohail Khan, Indian ambassador to Saudi Arabia. Take a listen.
We are at the Indian Embassy in Riyadh, and joining us is a very special guest, Indian Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Dr. Sohail Khan. Let's talk to him about where the India-Saudi Arabia relationship stands. What are your impressions about Saudi Arabia as a kingdom and its people? How has your experience been so far?
As far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, I feel there is a great deal of goodwill for India in this country, and we have known each other for centuries. We have a very large Indian community here. And as far as the embassy is concerned, it's a very busy mission. We are engaged in a lot of activities with our Saudi partners. We are serving a very large Indian community. So our consular section, our community welfare sections, all of them are doing their best to serve our community here.
Having said that, what do you think is the biggest magnetic force, if I may put it that way, between India and Saudi Arabia? What is that one factor which you think is the X factor in this relationship?
Well, it's very difficult to point out one factor, but I would say the factors which are important. One is a very large Indian community. As you know, we have 2.6 million Indians here, and it is the largest expat community in Saudi Arabia. And this community acts as a living bridge, and there is a lot of goodwill and respect for the Indian community and Indian workers here. At the same time, there is a great deal of desire from the leadership of both the countries to give a strong push to the bilateral relations.
Tell us about what are the priorities that you see going forward, some top 3 priorities that you could think of in this relationship.
As you would have noticed, this year we also created another mechanism. This is the high-level task force on the investments, and that is a priority area now to look at. And this task force is chaired by Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister from Indian side and His Royal Highness the Energy Minister on the Saudi side. So under this task force also we are addressing some of the regulatory issues, some of the other issues, and the attempt and the hope is that this will lead to a good framework under which investments from both the sides will be facilitated.
So that was a conversation with the Indian ambassador to Saudi Arabia on where the strategic partnership between India and Saudi Arabia stands currently and potential areas of cooperation going forward. With cameraman Pramod Negi, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Riyadh for DD India.
DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya went to Diriyah, a historical city in Saudi Arabia. Here's the story of its historical significance and its present-day avatar. It's a DD India exclusive.
This is Diriyah, a city northwest of Riyadh. Diriyah is the birthplace of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is the ancestral home to the Al Saud family, the royal family that rules Saudi Arabia. The Saud dynasty was founded by Muhammad ibn Saud in the 18th century. The dynasty takes its name from his father, Saud ibn Muhammad ibn Mukrin, who ruled Diriyah back then. In the 18th century, Diriyah grew from an oasis settlement into the capital of the first Saudi state. A tour of Diriyah takes one back to the ancient history of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia through its old streets, heritage landmarks, and unique natural components. Its old buildings house palaces and museums that give a glimpse into the past. The Diriyah Museum offers an exploratory journey into the 18th century palace of the Al Saud royal family and the complete history of the region. Diriyah has gained historical and heritage status today. In 2010, At-Turef district in Diriyah was registered as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This district was a regal citadel that once thrived as the heart of the Emirate of Diriyah, the first Saudi state from 1727 to 1818. It laid the groundwork for the future kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What you are seeing behind me are the stunning mud brick palaces, homes, mosques and museums that make up At-Turef, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This district has been restored carefully to its former glory. The museums here tell the story of the earliest settlers of this region, the history of the Saudi state, and delve into its unique Najdi and Islamic architecture. Today, Diriyah stands at the forefront of Saudi Arabia's plans for its future as a unique cultural capital with UNESCO World Heritage Site At-Turef at its core. A place of culture, innovation and contemporary creativity, Diriyah reacquaints Saudis with the lives and achievements of their ancestors and the living traditions, stories and history they share.
Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Colorful mascot characters from Japan and elsewhere gathered in western city of Ikone on Saturday. More than 100 mascots from around Japan as well as Hawaii and Hong Kong entertained people in a local shopping street. The event is part of local efforts to revitalize the economy. To diversify their customer base across the world, Vietnam's aquaculture industry is aimed to expand marine farming to 280,000 hectares by 2025, with projected output of 850,000 tons. South Central provinces are also pursuing community-based pearl farming to achieve the country's goal. Scientists in Colombia have developed a novel food supplement that protects bees' brains from pesticides, keeping the insects safe from neurological damage caused by agricultural chemicals. The formula is created with flavonoids, plant-derived secondary metabolites known for their health benefits. And still to come on DD India News Hour. From visiting Malawi Lake to Sri Radha Krishna Temple in Lilongwe, we give you the highlights of President Draupadi Murmu's final day in Malawi. Vijay Rahatkar to be the next chairperson of India's National Commission for Women. Indian Air Force's Sarang helicopter display team performed an air show at the Kanpur Air Force Station of the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh.
Today's episode was all about unique ideas that help us adapt to this new world where so much around us is changing.
We are forming communities to practice regenerative farming and learn how to control these problems naturally.
We have invested in a new battery park to stabilize it, and that makes it also easier for us to phase in renewables like wind and sun.
We're developing some AI tools which use imagery in our grow rooms. They can monitor them on a 24-hour basis, and they help us understand the prime time for picking so that we harvest those mushrooms at the perfect time of ripeness.
I have been using Ravichandran's vermicompost and have had good yields. Now I have used it for this 2-acre maize field. I'm planning to use it continuously. So far, the yield is good and the crops are doing well.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. Ahead of BRICS summit, President Putin expresses Russia's desire for lasting peace in Ukraine, praises PM Modi for his efforts towards paving solution to the conflict. Launching Karma Yogi Saptah, National Learning Week, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi stresses on innovative thinking with citizen-centric approach. And on day 4 of India versus New Zealand first test, Rishabh Pant misses his century by 1 run, while Sarfaraz Khan scores his maiden century. All right, welcome back. Ahead of the 16th BRICS summit in Russia, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has lauded India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi when it comes to the peace talks in Russia-Ukraine conflict. In fact, he said, PM Modi consistently raises the issue during their discussions and Russia appreciates his concerns. With 5 new members added to the BRICS, the voice of Global South is more powerful than ever. Now, to discuss more on this, I've been joined by Shilkant Sharma. He is former senior diplomat. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast today. Let me begin with this. Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed gratitude to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his concern over the Ukraine conflict. PM Modi consistently raises the issue, he says, during their discussions, and Russia appreciates his concerns. Now, this speaks volumes about Prime Minister Modi's leadership. How do you see this, and in what ways has PM Modi's diplomatic engagement been pivotal in addressing the Ukraine conflict?
You know, PM had said when he met President Putin last time, 2 months back, he had said that solution to the problem does not lie in the battlefield.
Yeah.
They have to come back to diplomacy and peaceful talks.
Yeah.
Now, that is something which India has been, placing the emphasis on from the very beginning. And PM has emphasized that again. Then Putin, in his statement, actually alludes to this accent by PM that whenever he raises these considerations, he appreciates it. Because PM has always been for early discussion on through diplomatic means and getting together and solving the problem. Because and as he said, it is now well known. He said this is not the era of war. So, all these things when put together, they indicate a certain stress on peaceful solution of the problem, and also the focus on humanitarian consequences. PM has also said that humanitarian consequences, and India is willing to help alleviate humanitarian sufferings in Ukraine. So this is the kind of a situation which Ukraine at the moment now is more than 2 years. They require a move towards peace, and Putin appreciates this. He said that he actually said that he expects Ukraine also to hear these words of wisdom. So I feel, and then Putin has also appreciated India's leadership, Prime Minister Modi's leadership in this context. The last G20 summit was held in India, and the summit of the South Summit, the Global South. All these indicate that India is actually, increasing and reinforcing the voice of the Global South.
Yeah,
and getting them together. Then in the BRICS also, India has welcomed the new members, these 4 members who have joined BRICS. They will be attending the summit now in Russia. So this is India's pitch that, and as he said, that Putin had repeated that India has said that BRICS is not anti-West, but it is non-West. That means it is actually a group of countries who are not Western countries. So this is also to make clear that this is not a kind of a bloc which India fancies, which is going to work against another group of countries. But it's a bloc, it's a group which comprises large economies, in the developing world, and it has a substantial chunk of the global population: India, China, Russia, South Africa, Brazil, and now more countries are joining. So they represent a good, chunk of the globe as such, and they are coming together. Their commonality of interest is also of great value, because all these countries are not there just for talk's sake or just for an event, but they see increasing commonality of interest. But this commonality of interest is what BRICS needs to build upon. And it is gratifying to note that President Putin also appreciates...
Sir, when you say commonality of interest, could you elaborate this for us a bit?
Well, the kind of multi-dimensional groups which have been set up under BRICS, gender, women, environment, climate, energy, food security, poverty alleviation, all these areas, they concern the vast majority of countries who are part of BRICS and the populations. And then it has a pitch on the new technologies, cyber and artificial intelligence, the whole new dimensions of information technology, then pharmaceuticals and pandemics. So BRICS actually has embraced all these issues which are of deep and abiding concern of developing countries.
Okay, sir. President Putin also echoed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's stance on BRICS that the grouping is not anti-Western but rather non-Western. How do you react to this?
Yes, it is actually to allay fears, misplaced fears, misapprehensions of some that India, China, Russia, South Africa, Brazil, they are joining together. They are joining together in mutual interest and in common interest. And it so happens that they are non-Western because none of them are Western countries. But it is not against the West.
Okay. Sir, now there are some new members of BRICS, like I just mentioned, you also mentioned, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. How might the inclusion of new members like Saudi Arabia and the UAE affect India's influence within BRICS and otherwise also? For example, addition of Egypt and Ethiopia will amplify voices from the African continent?
Well, India has actually joined with the African countries and with the Arab countries. So India has very good relationship with Saudi Arabia, with UAE. And they have awarded Prime Minister Modi the highest, they have given the highest national awards, honors to him. And Egypt also has conferred highest national honor to Prime Minister Modi when he visited Egypt last year. So these countries are very friendly, and their coming together actually strengthens our hand. No, so one should not fear that, because they see they are on the same page as India on many of the issues.
Okay.
And they are very constructively engaged. All these countries are actually looking for peace. They don't want tensions. They don't want conflict to escalate. So, and that's India's pitch also. So in that sense, these four members, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia, they are helpful. Iran also, despite the problems, we hear that at least Al Jazeera television said that Iranian foreign minister was visiting all these countries, implying that that Iran does not want to escalate a conflict there. So, we have to see the voices coming from these countries which are furthering peace and which seek peace. And they don't want, because all of them realize that war doesn't solve any problems.
All right, we leave there. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in on the broadcast. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Karma Yogi Saptah National Learning Week at Dr. Ambedkar International Center in New Delhi. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said that through Mission Karma Yogi, our goal is to create human resources that would become the driving force of our country's development. Expressing his satisfaction at the progress made, the Prime Minister added that if we keep working with this passion, no one can stop the country from progressing. He underlined that the new learnings and experiences during the National Learning Week will provide strength and help in improving working systems, which will help us achieve our goal of Viksit Bharat by 2047. India's President Draupadi Murmu wrapped up her first ever historic visit to the East African nation in 60 years as she emplaned from Lilongwe for her journey back home. On the final day of her visit to the East African nation of Malawi, India's President Draupadi Murmu visited the Sri Radha Krishna temple at Lilongwe. The temple is an important place of cultural and religious significance for the Indian diaspora residing in Malawi and is a major center for community gathering. Later, she also visited the famous Malawi Lake. Lake Malawi, also known as Nyasa or Nyasa, is the southernmost large lakes in Africa, and it is the fourth largest lake by volume in the world. It is also the third deepest freshwater lake in the world. Let's take a look at other stories making news. Indian government on Saturday appointed Vijaya Rahatkar as the chairperson of National Commission for Women. Rahatkar has served as chairperson of the Maharashtra State Commission for Women and mayor of Aurangabad. She has also worked as BJP National Secretary and president of party's Women Wing. Indian Air Force's Sarang helicopter display team performed an air show at the Kanpur Air Force Station of the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh as part of IAF's grand 92nd anniversary celebration. A three-day conference on empowering youths of Kashmir was launched in Srinagar, showcasing young talent across art, music, sports and more. This initiative supports the government's efforts to empower Kashmir's youth, building on previous programs aimed at fostering growth and nurturing local talent. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India on cusp of losing as New Zealand require 107 runs to win the first test match in Bengaluru. Olympic champion Joshua Cheptegei in India for Delhi half marathon and speaks exclusively to TT India.
With the constantly changing geopolitical situation and growing challenges in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, India is focusing on self-reliance and modernization.
We signed the contract for 31 Predator drones MQ-9B, out of which 16 will be for the land use and 15 for the sea use, and that is largely for the Navy. This capability certainly is a force multiplier in our effort to monitor our areas of interest. P-75 class of submarines, the last of which is likely to be delivered by end of the year. Then subsequent projects, that is P-75 India and P-76 are moving.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and time now for sport. Let's begin with India versus New Zealand. Bad light followed by heavy rain stopped the game on day 4 in the first test between India and New Zealand in Bengaluru on Saturday. Sarfaraz Khan stuck a majestic 150 while Rishabh Pant made a brisk 99 as India were all out for 462 in their second innings. The hosts, who were bowled out for 46 in the first innings, set New Zealand's a target of 107. Just when New Zealand came out to bat late in the final session, rain brought an early end to the day's play, with the visitors playing just 4 balls in the second innings, with openers Tom Latham and Devon Conway yet to open their accounts. Indian junior men's hockey team made an impressive start to their campaign at the Sultan of Johor Cup in Johor Bahru city of Malaysia on Saturday. They secured a stunning 4-2 win against Japan in opening match. Goals were scored by Amir Ali, Gurjot Singh, Anand Saurabh Kushwaha and Ankit Pal, while Tanaka and Yamanaka scored for Japan. There were some nervy moments as the match inched towards the final hooter, with Indian attackers upping the ante, hustling for a 5th goal. But Japan's goalie Koki did well to keep the goal at bay as India ended the play with a fine 4-2 win. Olympic champion and multiple record holder Joshua Cheptegei is all set to compete in the New Delhi Half Marathon on Sunday. The Paris Olympic champion is gearing up to start a new journey in marathon after retiring from track and field at the age of 28. In an exclusive conversation with DD India's Abhishek Prasad, Cheptegei talked about his Olympics triumph. Take a listen.
Not often you get to witness, you got to talk to world champion, Olympic champion. With me is a man who needs no introduction. It's Joshua Cheptegei, the world record holder of 5,000 meter and 10,000 meter. Joshua, this is the first time you are in Delhi Half Marathon. So how are you looking forward to the game, to this race and your competitor in Mukhtar?
Well, thank you so much. For me, it's really very exciting to be in New Delhi, and I have fond memories of India way back in 2014 where I came for the TCS Bangalore 10 kilometers, and it was my first time to race outside my country, and now I hope that Sunday's race presents another opportunity to launch again for new challenges.
Joshua, what does it feel to become a world champion and an Olympic champion in 2020 at Tokyo? You missed the 10K gold, and you said that in Paris it's your ultimate dream to finish at the gold medal position.
Yeah, well, for me it's really it was really a great experience for me. So it was a great time for me to become Olympic champion on the 10 kilometers. As you are all aware that I am a 3-time world champion and also a world record holder, so it wouldn't be satisfactory if I didn't win 10K on the Olympics. Yeah, to be honest.
What were your thoughts before going into the 2024 Paris Olympics final? How do you strategize that final?
Well, for the finals, I really had to I really went into the Olympics as not the favorite because of my previous races, and everything that there was really I was supposed to be written off because of my previous performances in the Diamond League, where I was 9th as my last race leading up to the Olympic Games. So I think from the look of things, everybody was really writing me off because of their experience. But for me, I really knew that when I do this and I do this, I should be able to get the gold medal.
So that was Olympic champion Joshua Cheptegei, the legend of the sport, who relived his experience and his triumph at Paris gold medal. With cameraman Manmohan, Abhishek Prasad for DD India.
Olympic Council of Asia President Raja Randhir Singh praised Indian shooters for their impressive performance at the ISSF Shooting World Cup final in New Delhi. In an exclusive interview with DD India's Narayan Singh, he highlighted the growing dominance of Asian shooters on the global stage.
India hosted a successful Shooting World Cup in New Delhi, and recently we saw India hosted the Shooting World Cup multiple times. And to talk more on this, I am joined by the President of the Olympic Council of Asia, Raja Randhir Singh ji. Sir, a very warm welcome.
Thank you.
India continuously hosting the shooting events in the past few years. Again, a successful event. What's your take on it?
No, I think the International Shooting Federation is very happy with the Indian Federation of hosting the game, and worldwide also we are coming up extremely well. We are today one of the leaders in the world in shooting, and they appreciate that. And just now they began a lot of the Junior World Championships to India, so they are there all the time ready for us to support us, and we all support them.
Sir, the way, as you mentioned, the dominance of the India in the international shooting event, here also India won a good haul of medals in Olympics too. So do you think the nurturing the young talents is the key reason behind this?
Yes, I think people have got very interested in shooting, and so many of our top shooters have today qualified and done extremely well. So I think that's when you have, as we mentioned earlier, you and I spoke about this after the OCA meeting. It's very important to have idols in life, and when you have idols coming up in every, first it was shooting shotgun, which Maharaj Karni Singh has to shoot, then rifle, pistol. Now in everywhere, right across, we are winning medals. So today you won 2 medals, one in skeet, one in trap, and that's the way it should be. And we are slowly coming up. Mind you, it's a top most competition in the world today. Top 10 shooters of the world, and plus the invites, so people are from here. So to win 4 medals is not easy.
As Raja Randhir Singh ji mentioned, that the rise of the Indian shooting here at the coveted event like Shooting World Cup finals, India won 4 medals. So it's a big thing, and Indian shooting is in continuous rise, hoping that this rise will continue. With camera person Rahul, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
Red Bull's Formula One leader Max Verstappen took pole position for the Saturday's Austin sprint race at the US Grand Prix, while McLaren driver Lando Norris has qualified with 4th position and in danger of losing momentum in the title battle. Mercedes' George Russell joined triple world champion Verstappen on the front row with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc 3rd. Verstappen, who has won all 3 sprints so far in this season, leads Norris by 52 points with 6 rounds and a maximum 180 points remaining. Building on India's neighbourhood first policy and Sagar outlook, Indian Navy ship INS Kalpeni has arrived at Colombo on Saturday. The ship is on port call until 21st of October under an operational turnaround. The ship has brought in essential technical support tools which can be handed over to Sri Lankan Navy. In addition to taking in replenishment, the ship's crew will visit places of importance and in around Colombo. INS Kalpeni is a Car Nicobar class waterjet fast attack craft of Indian Navy commissioned in 2010. The ship is named after Kalpeni Island in the Lakshadweep group of islands. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.